If you see these Leeb type hardness testers being used on knives, they aren't accurate.
All right, let's find out if this is entirely accurate statement. This calibration block is independently certified to read 61.99 HRC. The benchtop Rockwell tester came from the factory certified to 0.1 HRC repeatability. We're here to validate a result I got on the Leeb tester for a knife. White River pack knife consistently tested between 63.5 and 64.5 HRC. And we are in spec at 62.1 HRC on the tester. Now the knife goes under the penetrator. This is the first time I'm testing it on the benchtop, and I am just as eager as you are to find out if my Leeb tests were accurate by comparison. My plan is to move this blade from the benchtop to this Leeb tester that you've seen in numerous videos of mine, then right back on the benchtop tester and compare the results. I've got 64.0 on the first poke. I am panning the camera to keep it all in one continuous uninterrupted shot. First, the Leeb tester will be set to steel and cast steel setting, like it was in the video that I quoted earlier, which is not the setting I used to test all the knives you've seen before, because that is the setting reserved for predominantly steels in the Rockwell B scale. As you can see, at this setting, it is measuring 4 points below benchtop. For high hardness steel, it has to be set to cold rolled tool steel. And that is exactly what I just did there. Let's see what kind of average we will get over the 5 strikes. The computer interprets the return velocity of the rebounding probe to estimate the hardness. And this time the average is at 63.6 HRC. Flipping the blade over, I'm going to do another 5 strikes on the opposite side. A typical Leeb tester has repeatability of plus or minus 8 Leeb points or plus or minus 0.5 HRC. That is why it's critical to look at the average result and not at each individual strike, which in this case is 64.4 HRC. And therefore, this blade measures on the Leeb at 64 plus or minus 0.5 HRC. I continue by moving the camera back to the benchtop and placing the blade under the probe. And by the way, the video speed is 2x for this segment. The benchtop Rockwell Tester calibration video came out recently, and it gets into a lot more detail on how this device operates. I'm holding my breath for 64 plus or minus 1/2. 64 spot on. Unfortunately, not always. The only way to avoid making mistakes is to do nothing. And when I was testing the knife on the right, Best Tech Offender, I trusted my Leeb a little bit too much, and that 60 HRC measurement was wrong. I own it. It was incorrect, to set the record straight. With the offender, it came to 60 HRC plus or minus 1, and this guy came to, let's call it also 60 HRC plus or minus 1. The difference is this was advertised 63 to 64 because it's made of MagnaCut, and this one was advertised 60 to 61 because it's made out of Vanax. Okay, so enough about that. Let me show you what the Rockwell readings are for these knives, and then if you stick around just a little longer after that, I will investigate the reason why Leeb gives incorrect information in some cases. On the left, the blade is from Excalibur by Kunwu, designed by Metal Complex. On the right is Best Tech Neeves Offender. I recorded them obviously separately, but both segments are unedited and uninterrupted. And I staggered the tests a little bit so that you can distinguish which one I'm talking about. So as you can see, I am setting up the offender here and pulling the lever, and now the Excalibur's turn to go as well. So right now on the right you saw the major load or major force applied to the diamond tip of the penetrator, and now it's happening on the left as well. I give it 12 seconds, and the result here on the right is 62.4. And we're ready on the left there to release the major force. And wait for it, 60.5 on the left on Excalibur. Okay, let's set up on the right to test the offender again. Setting up the 0 here on the right. And we're gonna really do the same on the left as well. So it's confusing to me. Maybe you'll have to watch it a couple of times and just look at the left or at the right. Especially these pauses when the major force is applied for 12 seconds drive me nuts. But here you go. So we're about ready to release the major force on the offender. And we got 62.5 HRC. And time to check on Excalibur on the left. 61.2. And resetting. Best Tech offender on the right for the next poke. Adjusting the center here. And setting up on the left as well. Applying the major force to the offender on the right. And now to the Excalibur. And waiting. Time to hit a like or dislike if you don't like this video. Appreciate anyone who will subscribe, especially if you're watching this and subscribing live. We got 62.4 again on the right. 61.2 on the left on Excalibur. How can I, or more importantly you, tell my results are accurate? I have a test block that I purchased independently from the Rockwell Tester from a very reputable company called Phase 2. And not only is it marked 62 Rockwell C from the factory, it's also serialized and is accompanied by an independent NIST compliant certificate here on your screen. You can see the serial number and all the supporting data that led to certifying this block at 61.99, or for our goals and purposes, 62 HRC. And while I'm setting it up and waiting for the major force to be applied, I would like to thank all my subscribers and commenters, and especially those of you who became channel members, because anything that I make off of any of these videos, which is not a lot, goes right back into the channel. This Rockwell Tester was $1,450 before shipping and taxes. I also spent money to buy these calibration blocks. I did not fully trust the ones that came with the set. And here is the Neeves blade with its 3 pokes. And I'm going to show you Excalibur also has these 3 pokes. All right, the time is up. Let's see what it reads. And we got a 61.9. As I said, this block is NIST certified independently, and the tester itself came certified from the manufacturer, which is good until September 2025. Well, I am not done talking about the Leeb testers. Here's mine. It is equipped with a D probe, as annotated by a large D over there. And I am going to take the test cartridge out to show you what it looks like. I might have done it in a previous video. So on one end, it has a tungsten carbide ball, which is completely non-magnetic, very hard material. And on the opposite side, that spike is there to retain it in a mechanism until released. Inside the probe, there is an electromagnetic coil. The power is supplied from the batteries, goes through the coil, creates magnetic field that this probe travels through. And that means that inside this probe, there is a magnet. That magnet interacts with the magnetic field in the coil, and it's just a random piece of metal, so I can't pick it up on the tungsten side, but the opposite side is magnetic because that magnet lives in there, and it creates distortion in magnetic field, and that's what computer uses to estimate the return velocity of the probe when it bounces back. That's how it works. I was aware of this principle of operation, but I didn't connect a couple dots. So let's do it. So this blade right here, the way it's manufactured out of Vanax, it's totally non-magnetic at the tang where I was conducting my Leeb test. As opposed to Best Tech Offender, whose blade is magnetized throughout its entire length. I'll show you in a second. Why does it happen? It happens when they grind the blades. Some of these manufacturers use magnetic tables to hold the blades in place when they're being ground. And it's probably the most common way to grind blades to the thickness. As you can see, Kunwu also uses this technique most likely, because I haven't sharpened this knife on a magnetic base type device, and it's picking up magnetism at the tip. Whereas Best Tech is very magnetic from tip to tang. So let me try to illustrate here how it looks, not with a random piece of metal, but with the actual probe here. Remember, the probe does have its own magnet inside, and Neeve's blade almost picks it up into the air, whereas the Kunwu blade just barely moves it. So my working theory is that the magnetic field of the blade on Bestech interferes with the magnetic field of the probe and slows it down just a hair. And to the computer, slower means softer material. So all this metal picking seemed a little hokey to me, so I ended up purchasing this Eric Hill EMF meter. It measures electrical field on the top, and it measures magnetic field on the bottom. The units here are micro Teslas. Let's start with my guinea pig blade. What you will see, the screen will turn red here in a second. That's because I'm dragging a conductive object through electromagnetic field of this probe, and it generates a small amount of electricity. But you saw that the unit on the bottom didn't move a bit. Let's take the Kunwu Excalibur blade and do the same thing. So I'm dragging it through the probe's own field, and it generates electricity, but no magnetic reaction. And here's a MagnaCut blade from the offender. Let's see what happens. So clearly it has magnetic field. If there is an electrical engineer or scientist out there who's also into knives and they're watching, please comment and let me know what you think. So this story has a couple interesting angles still that I would like to cover here in the next couple minutes. So as you recall, I tested this knife. It came in low after the video went public. One of my viewers sent me his Neeves offender to test, and it came as low as the one I'm holding in my hand right now. This gentleman who sent me the knife, he then sent it to a beginner YouTuber who also posted this video. Here's the excerpt.
Really like the looks of the blade. It's my kind of blade. I've heard, don't really watch the channel, but I've heard someone talk some crap on the steel. If you watch that guy's channel, CBRx, I think, you're losing brain cells.
And then this gentleman, the latter gentleman, sent the blade yet to Brian of Transparent Knife, who then filmed it in a video that he posted on Instagram. And I wasn't even aware of it. I don't watch Instagram much, even though I have an account there. I don't like that platform. So he went on Instagram and put a pretty long video telling the world what a wonderful person I am. I'll provide a link here. You should watch it. And how transparent and honest he is. And then he showed that the blade that this viewer of mine sent to him came in at 62.6 HRC.
It really matters how right you are in a sense, right? Like if you want to say this one is out of spec, right, a little bit lower than it should be, he's correct. But there's a big difference between being 62.6 HRC instead of 63 and being 59 HRC instead of 63.
I'm not sure whether he was running out of film, but when he showed the knife, there are 5 or 6 pokes from Rockwell Tester, and I couldn't tell what these measurements were because he just decided not to mention those. So all we have is one measurement that he did on camera, and that was 62.6, which is very close to 62.5 that I got here. Does it mean that the whole batch of knives that came from Bestech has softer than advertised heat treat? Not yet. Batch, from what I understand, was of about 400 knives. A batch that size requires a test of at least 20 blades. So I don't think we can, declare that all of these knives are going to be at the bottom or below the advertised range based on these 5 samples.
Here's another knife that came way lower than advertised on the Leeb tester, and this is Kunwu Django in Vanax and DLC. I tested this blade several times, coated and uncoated. As you can see here, I removed coating in some areas. Every time, no matter what, it came to between 58.5 and 59.5 HRC on the Leeb tester. And the Kunwu mob came after me like a pack of wolves after a limp rabbit. Even the company's owner, Sergio, chimed into the chorus, wrote this little nastygram, and called me a clown. It's okay, Medford called me the other C word. I can take it. Anyway, let's see what it does. 58.8. When you advertise a range like 60 to 62, that is your tolerance. Oh, bummer, I got a little carried away on the crank here. Went past my red dot. So I had to reset in a new spot. Okay, what was I saying? Yeah, so you set your own tolerance. That's a zone you have to stay in. Otherwise, it's just advertising. Sorry about parakeets in the background. What do you guys think about this situation? 59.3. Oh, did I mention I am testing on the coated, the part of the blade that still has coating on it? And my prediction is it's not going to affect the hardness, because then I will test on the exposed parts where the metal is already exposed, coating removed. And I got 59.5. And next I am going to move it to the uncoated area and try it again. So I've heard people say, YouTubers say, that DLC coating can lower the measurement by 1 point HRC. We'll find out. I was certain that it's not true, and that's the first time I'm doing this particular blade on the Rockwell benchtop. Ooh, we got over 60. 60.4 HRC. Interesting. Unexpected. This is indeed 1.1 point higher than the lowest measurement I did on the DLC coated area. Interesting. Let's see how it performs in the next few. Okay, we got 60 exactly, so we're back a little bit lower. Moving to another spot. I'm supposed to keep the pokes 3 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch apart. That's what I'm trying to do here. You run out of room on a blade very quickly doing that, but we have to try, right? It is 60, ladies and gentlemen, 60 HRC. Let's do another poke, and then we'll do the average with and without coating. You know, I'm thinking football. You can't score a touchdown at a 10-yard line. You have to take the ball to the end zone. Right, Sergio? Which you yourself said. And it is at 59.7, so poof, just like that, my clown nose disappeared. And here are all the 6 pokes you can see on the blade, coated and uncoated parts. So let's go into averages. And the averages are 59.2 for the coated spots and 60 for uncoated. So indeed, the benchtop Rockwell tester is testing 0.8 point lower on the coated part of the blade. Alright, if you punch out of the video now, you will miss the most important part. And that is my apology. I apologize to community of supporters that I have and everyone who watched my videos using Leeb tester for assuming that it was accurate all the time. It was not, as it has been proven. I also owe thanks to those of you who insisted that I get a benchtop tester, because now I can do a lot of accurate measurements a lot faster than using Leeb. Leeb is kind of a pain in the butt to use. Going forward, I'd like to remind you that every time I measure a blade here, it is just one blade, one, out of many that were produced. Every batch has high end and the low end in every dimension of measurement. That's why my disclaimer remains. The methods I used in this video are not industry standard. The industry standard method is to test minimum of 5 blades for a batch of 150 or less. And then it jumps to 20 to do it correctly in accordance with acceptable industrial quality standards. So going forward, I just unmuted all the people who were really nasty in their comments and used, poor choice of words. They were temporarily blocked, as I mentioned before. And now, now I unblocked them because I would like to hear everyone's opinion. So let's just have a dialogue and move on from this point forward. I want to put this behind us. And there's another knife I owe a test to. This is Bradford 3.2 MagnaCut prototype. And I'm showing this to you so that you can see there are no pokes done with Rockwell yet. I'm going to do it live here, quote unquote, for the first time. The video will be sped up 2x, and it's going to be one continuous uninterrupted segment. In my Leeb test, it came at exactly 61.0 HRC repeatedly. And on this Rockwell tester, I am getting, 62.4, 62.5 HRC, which is significantly above my Leeb test, but also below the advertised range, which was 63 to 64 HRC. Let's do a couple more pokes and see what the average is. Couple of points to make here. Will MagnaCut at 62.5 perform worse than MagnaCut at 63 to 64? No, it will not. Not to the point where you will be able to tell the difference. So why would they not get the exact range from the blade manufacturer? They don't do them in the house. And then advertise that. Wow, same exact number, 62.4. I spoke with the company and they said that Peters of New Jersey does their heat treat. That's a prominent heat treatment facility known for making calibration blocks. I suspect miscommunication is at fault. I don't think anyone had ill intents. And here I sit. I didn't have ill intents when I was 100% confident in my Leeb tester. And it was wrong on these 3 blades. And possibly other blades as well. But I will start, checking it and taking some videos down. No amount of views is worth perpetuating a misconception here. 61.8 here. And so that video is definitely coming down. The average is 62.2 HRC.